Hi everybody, this is Steve, and this is a short video about running the Synapse Server QuickStart. So in this, we're mostly going to follow this document, which can be found at synapse.readthedocs.io/QuickStart underneath here. So with that, let's start by downloading the release, which is found on the GitHub site. So click here, take you over to GitHub, and download whatever is the latest release here. As of today, the current release is the 18.105 release. So I'll just go ahead and download that. All right, so that is downloading. Now we'll hop over here, grab it from this location, and I'll just create a folder off of the root of the C drive to put it in. Doesn't really matter where you put it. All right, that. Now let's extract the contents. So start by just extracting it out to here. That created a folder. Let's hop back over to the document real quick. So what this says is extracted into two folders, a controller and a node. That is by convention only. There is no requirement around Synapse what you call the folders. This also assumes you're running Synapse in a controller and a node separately. It's possible to run them both in the same folder, but for the moment, just to follow the document and keep things simple, we're going to extract it into two different folders. So I'm just going to quickly rename this folder to controller and then make a copy of it. Call that one node. All right, so we're all set. Let's take a look inside these folders real quick, see what's here. All right, so the base extraction of the product has all the files necessary to run as a controller and a node. A few batch files right on top here. If you're installing this as a Windows service, you can run these batch files, installing it as the node indicated by the title of the file here. So controller node is both, controller only is that one, and controller node is just the node. So what these do, let's just take a look in these files real quick here. So what this does is it's really just going to go ahead and install the service and then delete any files that aren't necessary. So if we hop over here to controller only, then what it does is it deletes the handlers folder, which is required only for the node, and then runs it, the controller install there, and then the node. Same thing, it's going to delete the files that are only in use by the controller, which is the DAL and the assemblies, and then it runs node install, and that will install it as a Windows service. So in our installation today, we're going to run these from the DOS prompt, which is identical to running it as a Windows service, except logging occurs at the console as opposed to in a file. Deleting the samples batch file is exactly what it says. It just runs through these directories and deletes any files that are there for samples. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get this running. One more thing here. What's here at present is Synapse Server.exe and no configuration for it, so it doesn't know what mode it is running in. Just the name of the folder alone doesn't do anything for Synapse. So what we need to do is go ahead and run it and get it going here. So if we flip back over to this, it'll tell us to run Synapse controller CLI service run. And what that does is it will create a default configuration for the controller and then start it running. So let's go to the folder where we have it. All right, and run that command line. So what we're going to see here is a new configuration file will pop up as soon as we start running it. All right, so it's up and running, and here is our new configuration file. Let's edit that thing just super quick, get a look at it. All right, so in here, this says that I am running in a role of controller. That's important. Current authentication scheme is Windows integrated. Just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to change this to anonymous now. And it also tells me that it can find the node on port 20001. That's the default configuration setting. So we haven't installed the node yet. Real quick, because I changed the authentication scheme, it'll say that we're running Windows integrated here. I'm going to go ahead and stop this, run it again. Now we're back up and running and anonymous. All right, let's do the same thing for the node. We need another window. Grab this guy. All right, now let's go into the node folder and see, same thing as before. Synapse Server, there is no default configuration file for it at present because we haven't done anything with it. So what we'll do, hop back over to the article, and now we're going to run Synapse Node CLI service run. Again, this is identical to the controller, except it will provide the default configuration for a node. So do this, and we're up and running. Now, by default, the node will configure on port 20001, and by default, the controller will configure on port 20000. You can just edit the configuration files to change that. So this says I'm running in a role of node, and the port is 20001. Also, by default, a node will reply to the controller that calls it. So in here, there is no controller URL specified. So that just means that this node is going to reply to whatever controller calls it. You can restrict that by providing a controller URL here. Let's hop back over. One more thing here. Point out there's no controller configuration in here because this is set up to run as a node. And in this one, there's no node configuration because this one's set up to run as a controller. So if you change the ports, all you need to do is bounce the service and you're back up and running. All right, so that's pretty much all for getting the services up and running. Now let's hit the default Swagger interface to have a look at it. So I'm going to depart from the article here just a little bit. This says smoke test the services by running the CLI. Well, actually, we can do that. So let's grab this just to show that the controller is responding. Open up another window. Run that command line that says hello, and we saw back here that it logged. That's what this line right here shows. So let's just do that one more time. We can see it do that. There we go, did it. All right, now let's hit the Swagger interface. So we just go to localhost 20,000 Swagger. That'll pop this up. So the controller uses the execute URL. So if we take a look at this, we see all of the different methods that are here. So we can run a get on the hello, which is identical to the CLI hi command. And what we'll see is back here, we'll see it log, same as we did before. So I'm just going to move this over a little bit. Hit try it out. Did that. See that it logged, and it tells us hello world. So we can do the same thing for the node. So now we just need to switch ports on 20001. That's where the node is running. Now this prompts me because I never changed the authentication method from integrated. So this expects an ID. So what I'll do is I'll just use an ID that I have configured locally for testing. And there's that. So we hit the node interface, issue a hello against that. That says hello, and we see a log line occurred in the background. So because this is configured as a node, the controller interface will not respond. So just for fun, let's go ahead and hit this. We'll get a big nasty error message out of it. So we got that nasty error message. This says that this is not configured to run as a controller, and that's what this big message in the background says too. So we'll only respond as it's been instructed to. So if we hop back to the configuration file real quick, if we change the role from controller or node to server, role of server, then it'll respond both as a controller and a node, but you need to have the node configuration present in the file so it can effectively operate. Okay, last thing, let's run a plan real quick just to show that it all works. So if we go here, what we'll do is we'll generate a sample plan really fast. So to do that, go here to the controller, and the command line for this is in here. So what we're going to do is Synapse controller CLI, whoops, sorry, not that. We're going to do this. Use the Synapse CLI to generate a plan. So let's cruise back over here. All right, here's the default help for Synapse CLI. We're going to use the sample plan capability. So Synapse CLI, sample, Synapse core, empty handler. What this is saying is go to the empty handler in synapse.core generate a sample plan for it, and it's going to put it in the DAL plans folder. All right, did that. So now we have a plan called that. Now we can run that plan. So if we go back to here, get the next one, Synapse controller CLI, to run the plan. So what I want to do just real quick is show the help for this. So what we're going to use is this command here, start command, to run a new plan instance. Provided, of course, I copied the plan. Try that again. Copy. Paste. Got it. All right, so Synapse controller CLI, ready to start the plan. So what we'll see over here in the background, let's bring up both DOS windows at the same time here. So what we're going to see over here on this guy is a bunch of logging occur, and we'll see the same thing with the controller. So a little restricted on screen real estate here, but you should be able to see the logging messages go by. So let's do that. All right, so it runs all that stuff, and we will now have a result. So two things real quick. We can query the result from the command line, or we can look at it in the history as well. So let's just hop back over to here. In the controller, in the DAL, here's where we stored that plan. So here's myplan.yaml that we generated. If we edit that really quick, there's the plan. So this is kind of a do-nothing plan. The empty handler specifically does nothing. All it'll do is wait for however much time and output whatever status you tell it to, as well as some sort of an exit data message, whatever you tell it to output. That's pretty much all it does. So if we look at that, so that's where the plan went, and after it ran, it created a result here in the history. So if we take a look at that, this is the result of the plan. So we cruise down here, return to status of complete because that's what we told it to, and then the result of the handler itself was designed to issue exit data of sample, and if we look down here in the result, it did return exit data of sample value. So that's pretty much all there is. So we can query that same result from the command line, or from the we can also query that from the Swagger interface. So let's just do that. So if we go back over here, what we need to know is the plan instance ID. So this is essentially the unique instance ID for that plan execution. So let's grab that value, hop back over to the Swagger interface, and go back to the controller. So if we go here, cruise down, and what we want to look for here is the getting the plan instance information. So that's what this is, right? So the plan unique name was my plan, and instance ID was that. So we know the plan unique name based on what we generated. So let's just take a look at that one more time in the editor. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, the plan unique name sample plan. Sorry. So let's use that. Right, and now let's run this, and this returns the history for that whole execution. So for that instance, it returned the entire thing. Oh no, it didn't. We got nothing. We got an error message. Awesome, because no good demo doesn't have a mistake. Okay. So I should have stuck with what I knew the first time. The unique name was my plan. And here's our message that we had from before. Exit data sample. Okay, so that's pretty much everything for this demo. And there's some links down in the description of the video. So if you would like to, check out some of the help or watch some more videos on this site. More help can be found here at synapse.readthedocs.io. And thanks very much for listening.